Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on all things that fall under the Division of Student Affairs. My name is Rachel Arsenault. I work in the Office of Admission and I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admission. I also oversee the campus visit experience. I'm joined by my colleague Patty Amador-Laxon this afternoon as well. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the students that have chosen to join us this afternoon, this morning, this evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world, and congratulate them on their admission to Grinnell. I realize that some of the students that are joining us today have already committed, so congratulations. I know that some students are still in the decision-making process. I hope that wherever you are in the process, you get a lot out of this afternoon's session and come away with a better picture of what your life could be as an incoming first year at Grinnell. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Ben Newhouse, who is Associate Vice President of Student Affairs and our Dean of Students. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Rachel. And I am so excited to get a chance to chat with you. I feel like it was not that long ago that I was sitting in the same seats that you were, making decisions about my college choice. If I'm honest with myself, it is way longer ago than I thought it was, but I know both the excitement, the trepidation and nervousness and anxiety that can go along with this process. So I wish you the absolute best of luck. Those of you who have made the decision, you can breathe easy and just take this all in. For those who are still making decisions, you will make the absolute right choice. And we hope for many of you that is Grinnell, but we absolutely want you to land in the right spot where you will thrive and excel and be the kind of student that we know you are capable of being. And the fact that you've been admitted here goes a long way in saying that you are set up for success, whatever the next steps are for you. I first want to share a little bit about what I do on the campus. My title is a fancy way of saying I have the joy and privilege of working with college students on a daily basis as they navigate the co-curricular experience, their outside the classroom experience that enhances, builds upon, supports their educational journeys in the classroom. It is a fancy way of saying your college experience, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I look forward to meeting so many of you this fall and being a part of the next 4 years of your college experience. The pronouns that I use are he, him, his. I share that so that our students who identify as trans can feel anticipated, and I share why I share that so that everyone can understand why that is a part of many of our introductions when you engage with members of our community. So I want to start off by answering the big question that I know many of you have. What is the fall going to look like at the most fundamental level? I know that many of you have been navigating your senior year in unique circumstances in ways that you probably never envisioned. I have said to this year's incoming first years, and I can say this to you, you actually will be able to say, back in my day, when you talk to future generations about how they navigate their educational experience, you lived through something that very few others have had the opportunity to. And so I think that will do well for you as you navigate challenges with resilience and with grace and patience. And so know that I think as challenging as this year may have been, I know that you will meet future success because of it. So our plan is to be primarily in person on campus in the fall. That is our plan, and everything that we're seeing is pointing in that direction, and that is the commitment we are making. And so we obviously will acknowledge that things can always change, but that is our plan. We are moving forward with a return to normalcy in quotation marks, and recognizing that things will not be magically perfect in August, but at the same time, we feel really confident that we can return to our traditional model of education, which is a residential campus, an in-person learning experience, and all the wonderful things that go along with it. We anticipate a vibrant academic, social, and residential experience for all of you. But still at the same time, we'll be paying attention to public health. We'll be making informed considerations. But whereas now, I think in many ways, public health is the driving force of how we are navigating the pandemic, we will be seeking to provide that vibrant experience with some public health considerations. So there may be some circumstances where we say, in this setting, masks are appropriate, but in the other settings, we can do something different. And so it'll still involve a collective commitment to one another as a community. And I have been so proud of our students who have made their way to campus, who have lived in town, they have done so with an incredible commitment to community health, to the health of themselves and one another, and this community as a whole, recognizing that we aren't a bubble. We are members of the Grinnell, Iowa community as a whole, and there are deeper considerations beyond just the campus environment. And it has been really thrilling to be a part of a campus that has been so completely dedicated to that and really yielded great success that we could expand our campus population over this last year. So what does the residential experience look like? If we're going to have this vibrant campus life experience, we want to talk a little bit about what that's going to be. The majority of our students live on campus all 4 years, and that's that really holds true to our mission as a residential college. First years are generally are assigned across the campus. We see the value in having you integrated with other upper class student mentors and leaders and connections. We do have one residence hall that is designated for first years only, and that's Norris Hall. And so you have the ability to opt into different ways of navigating the campus in your first year. First years and second years do have roommates. And so you'll have a roommate. You'll soon have access after you deposit to a roommate matching form, and those are hand paired. Our residence life staff sits down to pair students according to common issues that can present challenges in living and learning together. And so, and hopefully to avoid poor matches. And it's still at the same time, it's a wonderful learning experience to help to navigate those issues together with your roommate. What I will say is that, and so it's okay if you don't know anybody. Lots of people come to Grinnell without already knowing somebody, and they go through the roommate matching process, and it works out really, really well for them, and provides a new opportunity to get connected to someone that you didn't already know, and so that works in a really wonderful way. And like I said, your first year you're paired together with someone. Your second year you can opt and choose who you live with, and then your third or fourth year you may have options for a single, or to continue living in a double with or other roommate configurations with your friends that you've built across your time. The one thing I will say in the guidance, that regardless of whether you're coming to Grinnell or elsewhere, in your roommate matching form, fill out who you are, not who you aspire to be. And it's really important to be realistic about that, or who your parents or other loved ones aspire you to be. When you add in the stressors of a transition, a rigorous academic experience, that's not the time that you're typically going to dramatically, change who you are. So if you're messy, own it, be messy. That's perfectly fine. If you're somebody who's really, really neat, don't choose the middle ground in that. Identify that as something that's important to you, and hopefully that'll lead to a really good match. But know that you have lots of support. We have live-in staff who are designed to be a support system, especially for our first-year students. We have upper-class student leaders called community assistants, or we affectionately call them CAs on our campus, that are placed specifically in the residence halls to help build community, to help do some individualized support and dialogue should you need that, and really just to be incredible resources. They're the students who have figured campus life out. So when you don't know the answer, they're a great person to turn to, because they've had the experience behind them to navigate that issue. And even if they haven't navigated that issue on their own, they have the connections to help direct you appropriately. And those are our upper class student leaders, our second years, third years, and fourth years who get selected for those positions, and are incredible asset to our campus. And then we have live-in professional staff. These are master's level professionals who live in the halls and oversee a cluster of buildings and supervise the CA staff, and also help build community and respond to student issues and provide support and assistance should those issues arise. And the reality of it is your college experience will not be without some bumps. That will not be without some challenges. But what I think is really important to note is that you have an incredible safety net, an incredible group of people who are deeply committed to your success, to helping you learn how to navigate these difficult moments on your own in the future. And also just to acknowledge that we all sometimes need a little help, right? And so having those resources and support systems in place in really strategic ways are a real asset. Our RLCs is what we call them. They are on call 24/7, 365 days a year, to be able to respond to any sort of crisis or student issue or emergency that might arise, and to be there for our students. And that goes even a step further. I'm in what's called a Dean on Call rotation, and I'm there to support the RLCs and our students in more significant moments and make myself available. So in your residence hall, you should expect that there to be plenty of programming, both just designed to be social in nature and to help you build connections with your friends and neighbors, and community building aspects of those things at varying degrees. And so your hall will be a hub of activity in really wonderful ways. And I often think about a residence hall environment as instant community, especially the way that our halls are designed. You're going to see your peers in the bathroom. You're going to see them in the hallway. Doors are going to be left open commonly so that you can see the comings and going. I lived on a residential campus in my college experience, and I still have some of my closest friends to this day from people who lived on my floors, and people who I got connected to. I actually have a friend who cannot wait until we move into the retirement community because it's going to be like dorm life all over again, he said. And what I've said back to him is that you're going to really need a really important, really good CA. But I am excited that, there's never a time in your life that your friends are literally a hall away, a room away, just across the campus, to be able to go and connect and to find resources and talk through fun stuff that's happening, to make plans for the weekend. It's really a wonderful thing to have a part of your campus life experience. I just want to highlight some campus activities too that are a part of your campus life experience. We have all campus events. We have hundreds of student organizations that are very student-led and are part of the experience. We do an org fair at the start of the year. We have leadership development experiences. Our students are involved even in the academic life in planning around SEPCs, which are student educational policy committees that have programmatic functions and also advise things related to curriculum and provide guidance in relation to any number of things that departments are planning and areas of studies that you are drawn to. We have campus publications and campus media. We have a radio station. We have a student newspaper, a yearbook, and any number of other publications that come out annually. And then we have club sports. Our ultimate Frisbee team is quite active. You'll see them on Mac Field all the time, out there practicing and having a great time together. So what does the transition to campus look like? We want that to be a smooth one. We'll start engaging with you over summer. That will start sometime in July. You'll be receiving things before that, but really the intentional engagement will happen in the summer, starting in July, and then growing across the summer. Not overwhelming, but just enough to start getting you connected to your peers. You'll have the opportunity to participate in specific pre-orientation programs. For our international students, you may have already received information about IPOP, which is our international pre-orientation program. We have a Peer Connections pre-orientation program called PCPOP that students can opt into if they'd like to participate in that. And then Grinnell Science Project is an invitation-only program that also happens in the few days before the start of our new student orientation, which is for all students. In new student programming, the things that we consider our NSO program in new student orientation, there's an online portion that will start and be available around August 1st. And these are just some online modules that we want you to reflect upon, and it serves as a foundational kind of content as you head into your arrival date. We think that's really important to provide you the opportunity to engage with some of this stuff ahead of time so we can focus a lot of our time and attention and not overwhelming you in those 6 days of NSO, and allowing you to really have maximized time to build connections with campus resources, with your peers, and just have a lot of fun. New student orientation, like I've noted here, is August 20 to 25th. That's a required experience for all incoming students. And it's a lot of fun. There's critical information sessions, but a good balance of social time, downtime to seize moments with your hallmates and build connections that way, and strategic programmatic time, especially in the evening. Friday, August 25th is the kind of the final move-in day for the rest of the students who haven't participated in a fall sport or a pre-orientation program, and know that is a formal day of welcome. And we kick things off right away. And so know that is coming to shape. You should get a schedule in the coming weeks about what new student orientation is going to look like. And then mirrored on that is a welcome week program that kind of overlaps NSO. That's for all students. So just like you're excited to arrive on campus, we're excited to welcome you. We're also excited to welcome all of our students back to campus. And so we have all campus events that happen in the evening that is geared towards our second, third, and fourth year students to help you connect with those students, to help you kind of join the collective celebration of this experience, and to really have a lot of fun across that first week that you're here on into the first weekend after classes start. So again, I'm going to touch base briefly on this, but new student orientation focuses on connections, community building, engagement, finding ways to get you connected very quickly to your new home away from home. You have an orientation group that's comprised of about 15 to 20 other students. We know that meeting 450 fellow students all at once could be overwhelming. So we want to break this into a subgroup where you can be connected to a smaller population and slowly but surely build relationships beyond that. And you're paired with an upper class NSO ambassador that really is your orientation leader throughout those initial days on campus. And you'll hear from them across the summer as well, as a form of introduction and getting to know one another. And then again, evening program that, and these are examples, like we've started off with the hypnotist that first Friday night. Nothing breaks the ice by seeing your fellow peers act silly and have a great time together and laugh and come together. We've had comedians in the past, we've had magicians, lots of fun entertainment, but also not so engaging that you can't just kind of have some downtime and enjoy yourself and have common memories with your new classmates. It's important to also note that we are thoughtful and intentional about our parent engagement. So for those who are not students on the call or not admitted students, but our loved ones and support networks for those students, one, we're excited for your part in this process. We're thankful for the support you've offered thus far, and we know that you'll be a critical partner across your students' success. Our parent and family orientation is primarily online, and that's intentional because so many of you come at different times depending on what your student is involved with. And so it's really difficult to have a designated moment where we can reach all the family members together. And so we'll do a balance of things that are live and have a chance for interaction and then already pre-recorded content to share. And so you are a part of Move-In Day. We are excited to have families back on campus to assist students on the initial move into the residence halls. And we have a campus welcome the afternoon of Friday, August 20th that we intend for families can stick around. They're welcome to attend that. But then after that, really, in many ways, like after that first day, the programming turns solely to your students. And so we share that and kind of facilitate a family farewell moment. And we do that because we want our students to turn their attention towards kind of settling into this new home away from home. And at the same time, also by signaling that, it's, I think, in many ways merciful to you, because I think if you were to stick around with the hopes of reconnection, you will find that hope unfulfilled. And so we want to be transparent about kind of how that initial time on campus works. And we do a lot of things to try to make a stressful day less so. And we think by minimizing programming for parents on that day and for other family members so that you can focus fully on experiencing the move-in day for your student, allowing them to be a part of the celebration for that campus welcome and you being an equal participant, and rather than having to run off and do other content and stretch you further, we can do it in a much more intentional way. We also have started sending out regular parent newsletters, and so that you can have a sense of what's happening on campus and some of the major goings on that your student is experiencing. And then I want to just say, I'm happy to make myself available. I tend to be engaged in class-specific year parent pages, and so I'm happy to engage you on those platforms on social media. But at the same time, you can call or email me at any time, and I'm happy to be a parent resource to you as you navigate this transition yourselves. The one thing I want to say is that I think Fall 21 is going to be a celebration like no other that we've had on campus. This has been an odd year and a half for us as well. And I think we are so excited to get back to doing what we do best in the context of the residential learning environment. And so with that, I'll say, I'm excited to see many of you in the fall. I'm so very thrilled that you have reached this point in your educational journey thus far, and I'm excited to see what lies ahead for all of you. And now I will make myself available for questions, and I think Rachel and Patty are gonna help navigate those moments.
Thank you so much, Ben. Patty and I have been taking a look at the chat. The questions are terrific, super applicable, both now and then in 3 or 4 months. And I think the first one we marked that we wanted to make sure we ask you live, Ben, is Grinnell, the question of the month, the year, planning on mandating the COVID vaccines for the fall semester? And I have a hunch this student or parent was asking for students specifically. I know the college has come out and said they are not certain on faculty and staff. What can you share at this point?
Yeah, so what I can say is I was in a meeting actually this morning where we were finalizing plans. So I guess I'll say we're finalizing the plans for communication around requiring the vaccine for students. And so that hasn't formally been announced. But I think I guess I'm signaling that that's where we're leaning. I think we have some specific details to work through related to that. But I also want to say that if we do require the vaccine, that we will have the standard process by which people can seek exceptions, and those are handled on a case-by-case basis. And at the same time, we also know that it's possible that still in August and July, that the vaccine may not be as easily accessible for everyone. We've been fortunate in Iowa to have really seen a recent surge in accessibility. We're actually hosting a clinic on our campus, a vaccine clinic on our campus today, and that's been made available to students, faculty, and staff, and even household members of those who are connected to the college, which is a wonderful thing. And so we are planning to run another clinic to make sure that that's available to students who want the vaccine, haven't been able to receive the vaccine. And we do that actually with all of our required vaccines. We recognize that, especially from certain parts of the world, you may not be able to get access to certain things right away. And so we seek to remove that barrier once you arrive in Grinnell.
Thanks so much. Another question, Ben, is about if a student chooses to remain on campus over winter break, since that is the longest break. We traditionally have a 1-week fall break in October, a 2-week spring break at the end of March going into April, but our winter break can be as long as 4 to 5 weeks. And this student or parent didn't specify it was international or domestic, but could you speak to what Grinnell allows in terms of remaining on campus for winter break? Maybe, I know things were very much at a different level of perspective this year, but in normal times, perhaps.
Yeah, if we can ever use the term normal again, but yes. So typically most students go home, and that's kind of the expectation, or go somewhere for the break. But we do have a way that people can petition to stay and remain in the halls. And the biggest thing is that we want people to know that kind of the services that have typically been available, dining, some of the other resources, student staff, that kind of thing, that will not, it's a pretty quiet environment. And so you'll be cooking for yourself, navigating that. Obviously, we'll have campus safety still available to support. We actually have one of the dean on calls stick around and be on call and available should issues arise. But really, it's a pretty quiet environment. But we do have a subpopulation that for any number of reasons, they can't travel away from campus, and so they stay and they kind of form a mini community and reconnect with one another. And then once we kind of get through the time when the college is closed, which is closed kind of right before, usually it's, from December 24th through January 1st, and there's really limited resources. Once the college reopens, the majority of the staff and faculty are back and available. It's just that the students aren't around. And so I guess I hope that answers the question as effectively as I can. There are exceptions to allow people to stick around if they need to. It's just pretty limited resources at that time.
Definitely, yeah. And we've gotten a few questions about the residence hall experience for first years. We've answered some of the more basic questions, and one of them is a parent or student caught wind of Norris being an all first year dorm that was actually sort of founded by student interest, wanting that community. Though, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, all of the other residence halls aren't, segregated, if you will, by class year, which we do intentionally. Do you happen to know about how many first years live in Norris? I wasn't thinking it could be more than 100 or 200.
I think it's about 150. I will say I should know that number, and I've just lost that number. But I think I think it's close to about a third of the incoming first year class that lives in that space. And they do form a great community, and I think that we value that shared first year experience. But we also try to create mini clusters throughout the rest of the residence halls, so that there are subsets of first years in other parts of the campus, so that you still are among first year peers, even if you're around other upper class students. So we've strategically picked the halls that have plenty of double room space, so that you're not one of just a couple first year students on a singular floor.
Yeah, that would never be the case. Mm-hmm. And as far as new student orientation goes, we do tend to invite athletes back a little earlier, and students that are part of pre-orientation programs. Will international students, do you anticipate them arriving a lot earlier? We're getting a question about, will they arrive before August 20th?
Yes.
What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
IPOP, which I mentioned as a pre-orientation program, is a required program for our international students. There are other logistical issues and just transitional information that Karen Edwards and her OISA team want to cover with you. And so in many ways, I think of that as a mini NSO before the big NSO. And they do a lot of really wonderful programming there for both students and families. So I believe that information is actually on the web. I don't have it quickly accessible to myself right now, but I do know that that Karen Edwards has that available, and because yes, you would arrive, I think it's close, at least a week earlier than August 20th, but I don't know that exact date off the top.
Yeah. And for the families and students that are undecided in the room, you'll receive a lot more information from us in communication once you've decided to commit to Grinnell, including information from the Office of International Student Affairs. I mean, international students make up just a tad over 20% of our current student body. So they're a big cohort on campus and an important one. So I hope that answers several questions related to the move-in experience for international students. Another question we're getting is related to the campus alcohol policy. We know that Grinnell adheres to local and federal, state policies. Could you just touch on this? I think it's more powerful coming from the Dean of Students than myself.
Yeah, we definitely don't put our head in the sand and act like and act naive and say that for some of our students, alcohol is a part of their campus life experience. Our main message is really around safe and responsible, but also making clear we will enforce our policy, which is that students under 21 are not of legal drinking age, and so will be held accountable if they are caught drinking. And at the same time, really emphasize harm reduction and create a campus culture around safe and responsible choices and taking care of one another in really powerful ways. And so, while alcohol is permitted on our campus, it's intended for our 21 and over student population. And at the same time, we have mechanisms in place to respond. And what I find is a very educational means should a student be caught drinking underage, and helping them learn and grow from that moment. And I would say far more often than not, the issues that we're dealing with are more complex than simply just someone being caught with a beer in their hand. It's usually disruption to the community because a party has gotten irresponsible and out of hand. Someone consumes an unhealthy level of alcohol, and so there's a medical risk at play. And I think it's important to note that we do have a medical amnesty policy. We want to remove all barriers for students to do the right thing in the moments where they're worried about themselves or a friend. And so if they call for help, if they reach out to campus safety or their CA or the RLC to say, I'm really worried about a friend and I think they may need medical attention. If they do that, then at that point in time, whether or not they were drinking underage or onboarded something they shouldn't have, we're going to focus on health and self-safety first. That doesn't mean, and it won't be handled in a conduct manner. And so we don't want students to not do the right thing because they're worried about getting in trouble. That's not our priority in those moments. Our priority is the health and well-being of every single one of our students and supporting our students who are looking out for one another. And so it doesn't mean we won't follow up. It doesn't mean we won't have an educational conversation. It just won't be handled in a conduct context, which I think is really powerful for our students. And I'm very glad we have that policy because we always want our students to be able to learn and grow from mistakes. And we know these are singular mistakes, not long-term things, and definitely not the definition of who they are as a person. And so, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. What differences do you anticipate happening this fall in terms of the student life experience on campus? The question was specifically, at this time, what differences, if any, in campus life and the educational experience do you anticipate for the fall as compared to 2 years ago, which is, it's such a tough question in a way because things are changing so rapidly. But as you mentioned at the beginning, our hope and our plan right now at this moment is to move forward with in-person learning and a full campus.
Yeah, I really anticipated that we might have a modified dining experience because we know that spread can happen in the communal dining moment. But really, we've been consulting with public health experts who have really guided us through some very conservative decisions that I think have been the right ones, but have looked different than other campuses. And they view August as completely different, mainly because of the proliferation of the vaccine, the accessibility of it. And so they feel like we'll be doing our dining hall operation just the way we've always done it. And so I have high hopes. I really do. I think there will be some times where we might say in a large group setting, we maybe should wear masks. It's very possible that for our student athletes, the conference or NCAA may require regular testing, even with students who are vaccinated. We've seen that happen right now. We have some competitive play happening, and still even students who are vaccinated are being tested on a regular basis, whereas that's not going to be the case for students who are vaccinated and have provide the appropriate documentation for that. After they've gone 2 weeks past their second shot or their first shot, if it's Johnson & Johnson, they don't have to. So yeah, I definitely, I guess I'll say is that I think we will be providing updates and guidance and probably doing a lot of advising to say, maybe there's not a restriction on this type of activity, but we greatly advise against it, or we might have some caps in terms of total size of specific events. But I think that those will be reasonable in theory. I think we still have stuff we have to learn. We're navigating a new variant that is spreading very quickly, and there are campuses that are dealing with outbreaks right now. We fortunately have not been one of them. And I think that speaks to our measures we put in place, our systems that we have to respond to it, and our student behavior, to be honest. And we hope that continues in ways that avoid that for our community. And it hasn't reached Powashik County, which is the county that Grinnell College is in yet. And so we're hopeful. But that could tell us a lot, and I think we'll be doing lots of communication across the summer.
We are hopeful, yes, indeed. And we are so happy to have almost 50% of our students back right now.
Yes.
All of whom, for the most part, are in our weekly testing pool. So it's pretty impressive that we're able to do that on a fairly large scale. This is a great question and one that I haven't thought of. So I would like to ask you, we know that just over 50 students elected to take a gap year last year who were offered admission in the fall of, let's see, 2020, would that be right? This student or parent wants to know, are you guys in student affairs thinking at all of having them sort of be together in any way, whether it's roommates or a specific group in a residence hall? I was very intrigued by this thought.
That is a really great question. And we hadn't thought about that. I think we were really going to treat them as incoming students and have them have their traditional onboarding experience, but recognizing that they may have made connections across other student populations that in the last year. And so I guess what I'll say is that if you have met somebody you want to be a roommate with, you can request a pairing at any time. It just needs to be mutual. Both parties need to request it. But I think that's a really interesting thing. And we are doing some sophomore year experience, not calling it orientation, but a second year experience programming, recognizing that they've not had a traditional first year as well. And so we want to be thoughtful about how do we reconnect that student population, knowing that there were a subset that didn't come to campus and they were invited in our early spring term. And so I can think that there are some opportunities there, things that might be relevant to you. And so so that's a really wonderful question, and it gives us something to ponder and consider about how we might respond to our students who chose to defer for a year.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. We have a few questions related to student employment. We all work with students in our respective departments, and we both know that all students on campus can work regardless of them receiving a work study or a certain financial aid. Would you say in your case, the majority of students you work closely with have multiple jobs, whether it's on campus, in the community? I just want families and students to know that it's pretty accessible gaining employment on campus and in our community. And given the downtown is just a block or two from campus, there's a whole lot of ways you can work at the local restaurants or at the library, get involved in community service work, of course. Just hoping you could speak a little bit to student employment opportunities.
Yeah, I think most of our students typically hold one position. There is a cap on the number of hours you can work on campus. And so they often dedicate that time to a very specific role. Where I see students sometimes have multiple roles is when they have interest in certain specialized opportunities. And so maybe they only need to work 4 hours a week. And so they have that 4 hour a week job plus something else that subsidizes that. And so, I think over time, students collect maybe more varied jobs than they do early on in their time, as they kind of identify positions that align with their interest, and they kind of craft their own opportunity and experience. For instance, our CAs, the majority, since they have a room grant, they have limited hours they can work beyond the CA role, and I think that's intentional to them not find themselves overwhelmed with the leadership position and student employment opportunities, to find their way to just manage their hours effectively, and to also spread the wealth of opportunities. And so I think our CAs sometimes have a mixture of on campus and in their student leader position. I don't know of many students who work both on campus and in town, but I know it happens. And I think that sometimes can come at a cost of their social experience and just the stressors that they're navigating with their academic rigor. And so I'd say don't jump into that in your first year of college. I would not advise that. But I think the ones who have figured that out, sometimes need has driven that decision. And I'm definitely sensitive to that. And at the same time, I think, I think they've also learned and really mastered the skill of navigating those time commitments well.
Yeah. Sometimes my perspective is a little off because we have, so many different students who work for us, and the ones we work most closely with are often juniors or seniors. So they've had a few years to figure out how much they can handle. So they often will have 2 or 3 large scale commitments, which amaze me. I always think Grinnellians stretch themselves so thin in the best of ways. So thanks for that tidbit. Getting a few questions related to shuttles to and from campus during the major break periods. Des Moines, an hour to our west. Cedar Rapids is about an hour to our east. We offer shuttles for both. And then a couple students and parents are asking about a Chicago shuttle. And I'm under the impression there is only a bus, the Trailways bus, that comes from Chicago and stops in 4 or 5 different locations along the I-80 corridor, heading to Grinnell and then Des Moines. Do you have more insight on a bus from Chicago?
Yeah, so there are moments where a bus from Chicago is offered, but it's very specific times. It's usually our major arrival and departure. We discontinued it this year just because of some of the dynamics around the pandemic and needing to spread people out on shared travel experience. And so, but I do know that we have on occasion offered shuttles to and from Chicago, again, limited. And so it takes some level of planning. And I do believe we have our facilities management team that oversees that process, and you can find that information online. Des Moines is obviously the most consistent place where we offer shuttles to, and again, they are offered at major breaks, although with advanced planning, you can request a shuttle at other times as well. You just have to give a sufficient notice, and it's a pretty reasonable cost, to be honest. I think when it's most expensive is the solo transportation, if there are multiple people that have been accounted for, and it gets charged to your student account, and so it's not something you have to come up with in that moment. But I think it works for our students. It's a really great option. There is usually a monthly shuttle that goes to and from Des Moines area as well, that you can reserve a space on, and it takes you to different restaurants and locations. And then there are local shuttles that students can sign up for, people rides and things like that. I will say majority of students figure out who has the cars, which we aren't a high population car campus, maybe compared to other campuses. But yet I think people figure out who has transportation and who can offer a ride to the local places. And of course, they sometimes just walk there to the downtown area.
That is fantastic. I did want to answer this question aloud. It has to do with the recording, and we are recording this session in about a week. So next Wednesday, I think that'll be April 14th, we will have this session live on the Admitted Family webpage. If you scroll down to the middle of the page, there's a section on live events, and you'll have access to that recording. So thanks for asking that. Another question we're getting is could you give a brief overview on student dining at Grinnell? What is provided, what is not provided, and is it still, might be hard to answer this, a requirement for first year students to have a full meal plan? Traditionally, it has been pre-pandemic, but there's so many dining options in terms of the plans within the marketplace. We do just have one centrally located dining hall, but we have a couple of campus cafes.
Yeah, and so, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, the majority of our campus dining happens in the marketplace dining. That's our, what I would call our buffet style dining, kind of take what you care to eat. And yes, first years are required to have a full meal plan, and then you can adjust down in your second, third, and fourth year, depending on what housing option you choose. And so what you do is you typically go through, and there's several different lines available, very inclusive of lots of different dietary needs and offerings. And there's some consistent stations that don't really revolve all that often. They revolve in the type of food or the specific dish offerings, but they may say consistently pizza or more of a grill kind of option, a sandwich line, those kind of things. And then there's some things that rotate pretty consistently in very different forms. And so you just kind of go in, swipe, pick up what you're interested in. You can return to pick up more food if you'd like. I find our dining hall to be really, really good. But over time, students do evolve into taking lesser meals, often because they are excited to have the opportunity to cook for themselves. We do have some on-campus houses that students will opt into based on specific learning experiences or project house kind of themes, and we'll take advantage of that. Kind of by the time you are in your third and fourth year, we will have a new downtown residence hall up and running, which is exciting. And so that might be a living learning opportunity for you, which will have kind of mini apartments. And so very excited. We're deeply in the planning stages of that. And so know that that's, and then we also have a grill that is kind of where you have some designated dollars that work in that arena. And then now in the HSSC, we'll have a coffee stand, a coffee cart that you can pick up coffee in that space as well.
As far as vehicles go on campus, is the policy still students can bring a vehicle? It is obviously not necessary or required. Last statistic I remember hearing is about 30% of students will bring a vehicle. And the yearly parking fee, do you happen to know what that is?
I don't. I think it's
I'm remembering about 75, but that was a couple years ago. So
it may be more like 100, but I can't remember. Again, those are the moments where I'm like, I should remember this, but I don't. I've something else has fallen out my head. Well, I probably have a song lyric that's still there from 1985. So you just get a permit and park on campus, and there's generally lots of parking around the residence halls, lots of student parking that's available. And I often find that it looks quite often that the car arrives and sits pretty consistently. Usually around, I can definitely tell that when it's winter months, and you're like, well, that car has not moved in a while.
Students think that they need a car to zip off to Des Moines to get their food seen in, and there's so much we bring to campus, they don't even need to leave. They prefer to walk to the independent grocery store downtown than drive. Last question is about shipping items or the weight limit of all this stuff. This is not up my alley. Students can ship items to the Grinnell Services mailroom. Is there anything they can't bring? I know, pets are not allowed in the rooms. These couple questions relate to where they ship things and what can't they bring.
That's a great question. So if you are coming in on a shuttle, they do limit kind of the number of bags, and it really is, they've got to fit the bags into people on the shuttle. And so I think it's the standard limit that you could probably bring in an airline, but not more than that. You can ship stuff, and you just pick it up from the mailroom. If you do arrive on a weekend, just remember the mailroom's not going to be open on a weekend, and so and don't ship it in July. Wait till August to ship it. There's limited space in that mailroom area, and so they can't take all the things that might arrive in that point in time. But yeah, and you'll be assigned a mailbox that you'll have for your time at college, and you just ship it there, and they send you a note that says you got a package, and then you can come pick that up on your arrival date. And so it works out really well. It's in the Student Center, which is the Joe Rosenfield Center. So yeah.
Super convenient, yes. Well, we are past our allotted time, Ben. Thank you so much for this experience and sharing your knowledge. I know that it has been a tremendous year for you, very different than past years. Your team has handled it so well. We're grateful to have you. Thank you to all of the participants. Thank you to my colleague Patty for helping me with the Q&A. And I do want to wish everyone a safe and healthy rest of their day. let us know if there's anything we can help with. You can reach us at admission@grinnell.edu. Thank you again, everyone, and we hope to see some of you on campus in August.